everyone. Today we are going to learn about Luigi Boccherini. He was a great composer from Italy. We do not hear much about him today because most of his work disappeared because Franz Joseph Haydn was a composer during that time too, and most people liked his music more than Luigi's, and so in concert halls, Luigi's music was replaced by Haydn's. So today we're going to learn about Luigi's work and what made it great. So he was a classical composer. He was born on February 19th in 1743 in Lucca, Italy. His father was a very good cellist, and he taught Luigi as well. Luigi had two other siblings. One of his brothers, Giovanni, was a dancer and a poet. At age 13, he moved to Rome with his father to learn from different man named Giovanni Costanzi. In 1757, both Luigi and his dad were employed by Cappella Palatina. And there is a picture of Luigi. He became a master cellist too as a teenager. Here's another picture of Luigi. He was going to tour around Europe, but the Spanish ambassador commissioned work from him, and so Luigi went to Madrid, Spain. He was later exiled by the ambassador, and it was over a disagreement. The king told Luigi that he should take a measure out of one of his pieces, and instead Luigi figured that he knows more about music than the king does, and decided to repeat the measure that was wanted to be deleted. And so he moved only 100 kilometers away to work with lesser nobles for the rest of his life, which was spent then in Spain. He lived near poverty. It's really likely that is how he lived. And then he died on May 28th in 1805 in Madrid, Spain. So here's a little bit about Luigi's music. His music was known for its fluidity, melodic lines, rhythm, and great harmonies. He had over 500 compositions. And then some of his work was lost due to the Spanish Civil War, and Luigi didn't document his compositions very accurately or consistently. So there are some gaps in some of his pieces that he made. His most popular pieces, though, for concertos are the cello concerto in B flat, and for chamber music is the quintet in E major, opus 11, number 5, which is a minuet. We're going to look at a historical event that happened during Luigi's lifetime. This event was going on in a different country, but it is easy to relate to the time that Luigi lived when we look at the Boston Tea Party, because we know a lot about it. So the Boston Tea Party was on December 16th in 1773. It happened in Boston Harbor. It started because the British government needed money because they had just defeated the French in the French and Indian War. So they decided to tax the colonies. This made a lot of colonies and people mad because they were not represented in Parliament, which is the British government. And so they often said taxation without representation is tyranny. And so that was one of their slogans for the Patriots, which soon became a part of the Sons of Liberty. So something else that happened prior to the Boston Tea Party was the Boston Massacre of 1770. This killed 5 people, and it was because a mob of people were throwing stones at redcoats or British soldiers. So when it came to the Sons of Liberties, Samuel Adams led the opposition, so the people going against the British government. So then he also helped out the Sons of Liberty. So first right here, there's this little blue area that is where the Boston Harbor is. And so this is Boston, and then just a visual for where that is. And here is a picture of when the Boston, it's an illustration of what the Boston Tea Party looked like. And so on 1773, in that year, on December 16th, 3 ships entered the harbor. There was the Dartmouth, Eleanor, and the Beaver. Both of them had crates of tea, chests of tea in them. And so the Sons of Liberty disguised themselves as Mohawk Indians, and they dumped the tea into the harbor. The admiral who was in charge of the warship there said he wrote in his later that said he could have stopped it, but he didn't want to kill any innocent people. And that was kind of talking about how they didn't want to have another situation like the Boston Massacre. And so they dumped the tea into the harbor. And so since the tea wasn't on shore, Britain and the East Indian Company, which sold all the tea, couldn't tax them for it. And so then Britain's government took over the colonies and increased the soldiers that were there. The Boston Tea Party was one of the key events leading up to the American Revolution, because after then the British government increased there, it increased tensions across all of the colonies, and which led to the American Revolution. Alright, now that we watched the video and went through the presentation, I'm just going to ask a couple questions about Luigi, his music, his life, and one of the historical events that happened during his life. So the first question is, what instrument was Luigi a master at by his teens? So I kind of snuck it in there at the end of the first slide of information. Let you think a little bit. It would be the cello, which he learned from his father. Then what is Luigi's music famous for? So this could be anything from the melody, the harmony, the way he used rhythm. And so those were three, any of those from the first slide that were listed would be used. So the fluidity would be another one. Those are all things that his music was famous for. What historical event happened during the lifetime of Luigi and what caused it? So you can pause it if you need to think about it. But that was the Boston Tea Party, and what caused it was the taxation without representation that the Patriots and Sons of Liberty often spoke about, and that's what made a lot of people irate. So the last question, what instruments were in the music piece that we listened to story to? So I'll let you pause. And that was 2 violins, 1 viola, and 2 cellos. So finally, I want to thank you all for listening. It is important to learn about other composers, their music, and events during their lifetime because it allows us to appreciate the music they have created and to learn more about people that live on this earth or have lived on this earth. It is important to notice all the difference and influential things that happen all around the world, which is why it was important for us to look at Luigi's music and the Boston Tea Party.